first world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
Open your ears real wide and say, give it to me straight, doctor, I can take it.
Kick the chocks out from under the wheels. Flaps up. No offense, Margaret. Contact. We're off. Brum, brum.
Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
The doctor is in, baby. Welcome to Doc's Coffee Shop, the only podcast guaranteed not to rust, bust, click, dust, keep, stink, turn pink, or rattle. It seems the rainy season for 90 days or your money gladly refunded. If we ain't got it, we'll get it. When we get it, we'll funk it, ram it, jam it, damn it, pack it up, and take it out to your car. All right, so today we kick off CRoM Con 33, coming in hot on the heels of this show this morning. Our opening panel will have the legendary Mike Baron and other assorted idiots hanging out with him like me. But on that note, let's see who's hanging out here for a second. Who in the world is here? Oh, Vic is here. Good morning, Michael Taylor. And good morning, Carol. I'm going to need you to shut up because I love you. I want to bring out with a warm and tender, gentle welcome to my co-host.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Gordon Shumway, nice to meet you. Interested in a new Buick?
Nonsense. I've not yet begun to defile myself.
I'll make you famous.
I'll make you famous.
Yes, indeed you do.
Good morning.
For a kinder, gentler, more sensitive death. Cola tanker.
Damn Skiffy.
What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man.
I mean, they're just bulldozers with guns. That's all it is.
Well, and we got a giant shotgun shell. So, I mean.
Yes. So, again, when you absolutely positively just got to reach out and touch a motherfucker, I'm just saying. That's what you do.
This is true. This is
what
true.
you do. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Been working hard.
You're backstage. We're doing great. We're doing good. We're doing. On the other hand, my house could be burning down as we speak.
Well, yeah. There's.
So Tanner, he comes in, say, we were smelling smoke in the bathroom, and I was thinking, what's unusual about that? I smoke in the bathroom, and then I remembered he's not a smoker. So.
Well, that's the thing is we think that the kids might be doing it.
Oh,
yeah. So there's that too, and we got one that's kind of normally he cracks under pressure, but I don't know, something's not adding up. So
I have a friend, if he's still alive. I'm talking about you, Merritt, if you're watching. Merritt is a retired Green Beret. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Super cool guy, very meek and very quiet. And he'll say, I'm just a little old man until you put a gun in my hand. But he has Merritt Cruzon's 3 laws of interrogation. Remember this when you talk to your kid. 3 laws of interrogation. Admit nothing, deny everything, and make counter accusations.
And he's done everything but the counter accusation. So
we got to bring the pressure. Bring the pressure. Bring the pressure.
Oh, I've got a Jennifer, and Mama don't play.
In the boys' room, I tell you, I was. Good morning, Dawn. Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning,
Michael. Morning, Dawn.
Vic.
Morning, Vic.
Carol, it's always great to have you here. I'm just saying. Carol is one of my favorite people that I've met in the community because her sense of humor and mine are so much alike that she tells the jokes I haven't thought of yet, but I would have. So, electric.
Yeah. So I did a campaign on Kickstarter. That from the outside looking in, it looks like it was uber successful. However, we had so many drop pledges that literally I only have enough to color the book, which was the goal was definitely to color it, but I also want to get it to print.
Yeah,
kind of want to put books in hands.
So we obviously need to do a shill stream, don't we?
We could chill a little bit, because I have a second chance campaign going on in Indiegogo.
I'm just sitting here thinking CRoM Con weekend, and this guy didn't ask for a spot.
Yeah.
This guy gets a spot. We'll bring him out, and we will shill the hell out of it. We're going to get you some money, Tanner. Let's get you on some other channels. Let's get you out there in front of some folks. Now, just so you guys know, Tanner is a publisher, and he's one of those crazy publishers that shoots for the stars. So we're waiting on a certain piece of artwork to come in from who?
Simon Bisley, and I actually got it. I got the prelim in yesterday, and it looks amazing. So I greenlit that, and that's going to be coming out for the magazine, Liquid magazine, and I'm planning to publish after Electric. Sorry.
Yes. Do I ever check my dextromethor from hydrobromide? No, I've never checked that. What do you mean, do I ever check my message? Yes, I check my messages. And there's nothing from you. Yeah, that looks great. Oh, Carol's doing the black coloring, and we're going to show some of that in a little while.
Actually, I'm going to send I'll send the prelim. We'll see if we can get that on here and just
send it to Pops so he can put it in.
Okay.
And we're gonna I have only one thing in the news this week that I really want to talk about. We lost her.
Yeah.
We lost the legendary Raquel Welch. Now, that wasn't this past week. I think it was like 9 days ago. But
Roughly, give or take, yeah. That was terrible.
This woman changed my life. Literally.
What was it? 1 million BC?
Yeah, there's that. She was in so many films. Now, here's the thing. People don't know about Raquel because there's so many fakes of it. She never posed nude, ever. She said, and I quote, I live in horror. No, what was she? She said, I have no modesty about nudity and would gladly do it, but I live in horror of my father seeing it because he would never forgive me. So she never did, but a beautiful woman, sexy, sultry, classy, hard to match. So farewell, Raquel, and thank you for the memories. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. And the link is there. And yes, we got Simon Bisley, somebody.
Bisley.
I try, what I thought about it, Carol, was when there was that much demand, I just went ahead and did the photo shoot. I needed the money, so they're out there. What can I say? No laugh whatsoever. So we're gonna do a little segment here that we like to call Hi, Brianna. Welcome. We're going to start with the I'll show myself out meme of the day. Ate my last piece of cheese yesterday. Today it's raining. Ain't no sunshine when cheese gone. I'll show myself out. Be sure to tip your waitress. Then we've got our old man memes of the day. When one door closes, just open it back up. That's how doors work, dumbass.
That's kind of like the craziness that you were talking about. I don't have a tendency to take no for an answer. So
exactly right. And here at Doc's Coffee Shop, we drink coffee or people die. It's that simple.
That simple.
Take my coffee away and find out. There are two kinds of people in the world. Avoid them. And then in topical news today, I'm just a little black rain floating under your honey tree. Just saying.
Oh, I love it.
This has been another episode of Now,
I sent you a bunch of like 80s hairband ones like weeks ago that we haven't used.
we need to get to those.
Do I need to resend that?
No, I'll go find them and I'll upload them because that very much applies to what our guest and
I know, right?
And I can't wait to get into this conversation because we have not consulted with each other on the topic. There we go. Oh no, I'm letting people die. Realize this, and just like Brianna, I'm praying for you that you will get right with the living God and drink coffee, like our friend Michael Taylor, having that coffee.
There's no coffee. No, No
This
coffee?
is an open coffee shop.
Doc, my arm. I can't take it.
How do you not drink coffee? How does that even happen?
I
What
know.
goes wrong in a person's life where they don't drink coffee, Tanner? What goes wrong?
We're finally living in the apocalypse.
It is.
It's happened.
Second Opinions, chapter 4, verse 3.
It's going to need a lot of prayers, Doc, just letting you know, she says.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
I will be praying. And you know, by the way, the coffee pope might forgive you. I won't. You got to drink the coffee, Brianna. Oman, Pani Money Move. I have a one of my best friends in the world is Catholic, and she's always trying to explain Catholicism to me. And I know she's not watching, so I can say this. She'll go, well, we do this because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah. Never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence because it'll offend Catholics. So never mind. Forget I said a word. I said a thing.
I used to know a Catholic joke. I would butcher it now, but it's
we're not going to talk religion, period. Period. What we are going to talk, Tanner, we're going to talk about something called
Good morning, everybody. Today we have something eerie. We have something creepy. We have something downright macabre. Today I want to talk about Bernie Wrightson, the master of the macabre, and not just, his great works and his attachment to the studio and ushering in a new era of horror. But I want to talk about what started it. Swamp Thing #1. Now, get it. This isn't the original Swamp Thing #1. This is a reprint. Got this in the dollar bin, know, and it's the only way that I have Swamp Thing #1. But look at that beautiful art. That master of anatomy, master of shadow, master of the macabre. That's Bernie Wrightson.
Yes. Go Bernie. Go Bernie. Swamp Thing, the second best swamp monster out there.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, look at that. Look at that stance. The Swamp Thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I kind of have an affinity for swamp monsters, as you know.
My gosh. I hear you. I mean, how can you not?
I mean, I just want to say,
I mean, look at boom. Yeah. You can hear that terror.
Yes. 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 And I do remember having that, the original #1, back when I was young, stupid, and did not possess any ability to even think about preserving a comic book. But I do have an affinity for swamp monsters. This is my Golem, whatever you want to say, colored by Carol, who's in the chat. Thank you, Carol. This is the Black Glove.
Very beautiful.
And the prototype arrived at Anthony's house.
Oh, nice.
It's hanging up, and we're going to preview it later on. So there's that. Booyah. Oh, yes.
Twisted Tales.
Look at that. Look at that. Oh, my God.
I mean, collecting heads.
Collecting those heads, baby. So when he's chasing you, wait for him to chop your buddy up. And in the time it takes him to sew it onto his belt, you could be in the next county.
I mean, look at some of this. The detail in the laboratory. It's just insane.
Freaking amazing. And it's not just the details, the composition. The guy was just a master.
He was absolutely. And not just that, to talk a little bit about the history of Bernie Wrightson. He was part of the studio, which operated out of the Village in New York. You had everybody. You had Mike Kaluta. You had Bernie Wrightson. You had Jeffrey Jones. You had Barry Windsor Smith. All these guys were hanging in the same studio and just feeding off of each other's art.
Think about that much talent under one roof.
Oh my God.
It's just, it boggles the mind, man.
And actually, I don't know if you know, but talking about a little history and a little Swamp Thing, but the original cover, which we don't have here, the female on the cover was Louise Simonson.
No way.
It is, yeah. When she was like a young editor and whatnot. She knew all these guys when she was dating a young Waltz.
Yeah. I love it. All right, boys and girls, this has been another episode of Great Moments in Comics History, brought to you by the fine people of We're Men and by Beatrice. What? I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I have no idea. So, Tanner, I'm going to bring out a guest that we have here today.
Oh, excellent.
Now, this gentleman and I met recently. We've talked twice, and we've had a hell of a good time. Got a lot in common. We're going to find out, though, if we have a dividing line or not. But I'm going to bring this gentleman out and let him tell a little bit about himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Timothy Fling.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. I got to put on my headphones so I can have my background music going.
Hey, first, I just want to say, Tanner, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I was not aware of your work, but I just looked it up while I was backstage. It looks terrific.
Oh, thank you.
And man, I dig Great Moments in comic history. I didn't know this is a thing you're doing, and we are already kindred spirits. I have something, well, you're going to find out here in a second about this little show we're doing. But I'm right away, I'm adding you to my list because this is exactly the type of thing that we are doing over here with our YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
And just this week, and I don't know if Pops is backstage or not, but I feel like I should say thanks to you guys. We just worked on this cryptids episode. There he is. We do it's the top 11 cryptids was this this episode we just did.
Oh, nice.
And I'm telling you, it's just taken off. It's in less than 3 days at 200 and some views or 210 views, which I know some people do much more than that, but for me, that's very impressive. And I'm kind of stunned by this whole thing.
Impressive.
Yeah, right. Like it's a little bit hard to believe for me, actually. So we're going to be doing things like, Tanner, I'm going to have this one coming up with Doc, which is going to be the top 11 guitar solos. And
very
also,
nice.
The reason why I mentioned to you, Tanner, we frequently do things like we did the top 11 Silver Age covers, top 11 Golden Age covers. Man, I'd love to talk about bronze with somebody if that's your
comics are my thing, and I can talk about comics.
Yeah. I can buy it honestly, brother. I am a comic collector. And I assume by hearing you're a comic collector?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I had all those books, man. And as soon as you started saying eerie and creepy, I was like, what? Oh, I gotta tune into this guy.
I have a bunch of those too. And we actually did do a skit. I think I did Eries and Vampirellas and stuff like that around Halloween. So that was our Great Moments in comic history,
I love
for
all
a
those
theme.
Books. One of the ways I got started, and I won't go too far off the track here, Doc, but I feel like it ties into what Tanner said. I was a fan of back then. Do you remember there was a black and white book they put out, and it was the Planet of the Apes version?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was not necessarily based on the movies or anything, but what they were some of them were about the movies, but they were like science fiction tales involving the Planet of the Apes.
Yes. Yep.
It was
I remember those. I actually have those. So,
no way. Yeah.
I do.
I had that whole run, and back in the early 2000s, I had a comic book store.
Oh, nice.
Well, hold on. Unfortunately, there is a tragic ending, and depending on your perspective, it can be tragic or glorious. But I had gotten a divorce, and in the divorce settlement, my ex, she got custody of the comic book store.
Oh no!
Can you imagine? Right. So now that does sound very terrible, and I will level with you. I was devastated. It was my lifelong dream, and I had in effect lost it. But I can remember being so frustrated, and so I was depressed and not doing too good. That's maybe a story for another episode. But I sat down and I wanted to make something that could not be taken from me. So I sat down and I started writing my own comics. And man, it couldn't be going any better than it's going. I like I say, I can't believe this is what's happening to me. But of course, now we got something like 11 titles and got my own publishing house. And now there's this YouTube channel. So yeah, and man, I hope you'll follow our next one. I'm not going to bend your ear too much about that today because I'm getting ready to do my.
I'm subscribing like immediately.
Yeah, please do, man. And I will
What's
tell
it under?
You can look Timothy Fling up on YouTube. He's the only one that'll pop up in the search results. So
you're right. My handle is @Timothy Fling, and that's probably the easiest way to follow me, or on Facebook. And in March, then we'll be launching Call of the Cryptid, which is
nice.
It's a cryptid-based science fiction series. And then currently, the thing I'm most known for, I'm the writer and creator of Water Wars 2288, which we're 4 issues in, 5 issues. It's a fairly successful Kickstarter project. And as a matter of fact, I was waiting to show this on the show-offs, but I like Doc a lot, and I think he'll think this is cool. Take a look at this. I'm always looking for new and inventive Kickstarter rewards. So we're talking a little bit now about what they call these laser-etched wood engravings.
Whoa, that's cool.
Isn't that something else, man? And just
awesome.
The precision with which they do these things is amazing. And I've actually got a few for each book. I'll show you. We did this book called The Hunchback too.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Look at that.
Isn't that cool? Which, by the way, if you're a Hunchback fan, this is The Hunchback of Theological Quadrant 19. It is available nationally through Antarctic Press. You can run to your comic store right now and order one. Of course, my works over there are anthologized in the pages of Planet Comics.
Nice.
So, yeah, and thanks to Ben Dunn for picking that title up. And then the new one, I'll just show you real quick. The new one's going to look like this. That's the Call of the Cryptid book.
Oh, man.
Beautiful stuff.
You see the Mothman there.
Yeah, you got the Mothman, you got Bigfoot.
Nessie.
Bigfoot.
What they are, I will tell you guys, this is, in our stories, they're a little bit, what you might call, thanks, Quentin. They're a little bit what I call reimaginings of the cryptid lore. And what I mean by reimaginings, like, they're sort of sci-fi versions, like, when she stumbles across Bigfoot, of course, he is an intelligent Bigfoot that can speak. He wears goggles for when he passes between the dimensions. When they encounter the Loch Ness Monster, yeah, right. It's all a little bit. We do what they call twist endings. You know, I'm a big fan of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of stuff, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. You're probably the same way. I used to love the Twilight Zone, Night Gallery,
yes,
like that, where you'd watch the whole episode and then you get to the end and it's a hair different than what you thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like in our version, it's the Loch Ness Monster, and you know, when they get to the end, hey, we finally discovered it. Well, it turns out that it is a hoax and that a guy is operating the thing, and it is a mechanical version of the Loch Ness Monster. And just about when they're ready to throw in the towel, of course, they find out, well, he's on our side, and they use the mechanical Loch Ness Monster to defeat this elder god that's coming in. So it's full of cryptids, but it's not maybe what you might think.
Is that like he said elder god? Is that kind of like Lovecraftian?
It is. And by the way, there's a twist with that too, and I don't want to spoil the thing. I was recently in are you guys familiar with this? There's one on Backer Kit right now, which is the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell series.
No.
That's Russell Nolte's book, and I got a short story in there. And mine is what it is. That's stories from 75 different creators across 3 volumes. Mine's a 6-pager. They're shorts, and mine is the sci-fi story. Okay. And
Oh
it's
my
the
gosh.
same thing. It has a twist ending. And so I don't want to spoil it for people that might be back in that project. But that was very well received. And I wanted to do a take on it that it involves, I'll call it an elder god, but same thing, what they think it is. Of course, it turns out to not be that. So I'll just say that right now. And we do that intentionally.
So, by the way, I have a artist concept sketch of a cryptid appearance that happened here, just a block away. So, you know, here we go. You know, it's, if you look over by the car in the background.
I see that.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It's from a little book called Pariah Blood and Mud, which is launching next Friday, March the 3rd. And I haven't even played my own trailer yet. So is it cool if I do that?
Yeah, go for it, buddy.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I would encourage you, go sign up now because it's shadow banned. Pops is going to drop the link for you.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Shadow banned in sign up. Whoever heard of such a thing? So help me stick it to the man.
I wanted to show off something else real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead and read that. Read that.
Well, I can't. Thank you for backing this campaign. That's all I see.
Backer number 1.
Oh, nice.
Did you back my campaign?
Thank you very much.
Hell yeah.
All right, there we go.
$13, y'all. I spent $13 of sponsor money. I'm sorry. I did it, but I did it.
But what is it? What are you backing?
Tanner's book.
Oh, right on. I just can't see it.
Thank you.
Number 1.
The print is like 0.05 on my screen. So very cool. Very cool. Let's play a little trailer here for you guys. If you don't mind, head on over, sign up, get an exclusive trading card if you back the book. Starting to not want to put the Indiegogo logo on my trailer, though. I'm just saying I'm shadow banned. There's some SJW living in their trust and safety community that has a problem with me personally. So I'm just saying. Hey, Doc Bishop, welcome. Glad to have you here, buddy. Carol says she's never heard of Pariah Blood and Mud, even though she's Team Pariah. There goes your paycheck, Missy. All right, so Timothy.
Yes, sir.
We're going to do a couple of things here.
All right.
The first one is, yes, we're doing the top 10 guitar solos over on
11.
your show.
11. Ours goes to 11, Doc.
But here today, we can't play them because we streamed to so many. We're going to give our top 5 in-song guitar solos.
That'd be perfect.
So that it excludes Eruption, Tender Surrender, all that stuff.
Exactly.
So,
it's a good point because you got to have parameters for these lists, right? Because otherwise they start to balloon up to these huge.
So what we're going to do, though, we're going to do this like Boggle. We're going to see how many we matched. What do I have that you don't have? What do you have that I don't have in the top 5?
Okay, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to go first, and I'm going to throw something a little random out there. because Timothy and I were talking. Timothy was a bass player in a metal band. I was a bass player in a metal band. We both love the same stuff. Dio, Maiden, Ozzy, the old fist pumping, head banging, melodic power vocal. Rah! Metal. Back when people weren't ashamed to have talent.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, my first one though is a little bit to the side of that, and it is the guitar solo from "Wait" by White Lion by Vito Bratta.
Vito Bratta, right?
All right. Do you have that on your list?
I didn't, but I'm a fan of White Lion.
Okay. All right. So you throw one out here off your top 5.
You want me to go first?
Well, I just did.
Okay, gotcha. I thought maybe you were going to play a clip. I picked for mine. One of mine is, look, I knew we had to have Randy Rhoads on the list, and my feeling is he's got a lot of them that are contenders. So I went through to refresh my memory of a couple, and I love the guitar solo in Revelation Mother Earth is one of mine that I chose.
Fantastic.
Not his most popular one, admittedly, but it's one that I felt, number one, could use a little more love. And it's also kind of got that dissonant, sort of screaming feedback harmonic. That's my pick. I might even have put that at number 1, but let's hear what you got to say.
I don't have that one, but I have 2 Randy Rhoads ones.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
But the first one I'm going to mention is the outro solo to Mr. Crowley.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
2 solos in that song. The second one is far more classical and dark and melodic. And, Randy was a genius at incorporating elements of classical music into his work. And it is really highlighted in that outro solo. Yeah. There's that one. All right. What's your next one?
Well, I wanted to pick something a little bit modern too. Like I like not just the older stuff, but the modern stuff too. And the first thing, there's a couple. I guess I would say I wanted to include something too that was what we would call a dual guitar solo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for one of mine, I want to have Iron Maiden on the list at least one time.
Right.
Huge Iron Maiden fan. So I guess one of the first ones that I would say is go to the classic one, which is Number the Beast, which is where you have the trade-off between the 2 players. And the thing that I liked about this one, just for what my thinking was, they are like each guy has a different style. Like it isn't like they're both uniquely different solos. There wasn't necessarily anybody copying each other.
Right.
And even in the structures of the songs, which most of those rhythms were written by Steve Harris, right? But they would even change up the rhythm a little, or sometimes change up the key a little. And that was to sort of emphasize the difference between the 2 players.
Well chosen. And you were wrong. That's not a modern one. That's still from the classic age.
Well, I had 2, but I didn't want to spit out 2 at once.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go over now, and I'm going to, let's see, what was it? I got to find my list.
Well, I got my modern one ready, which is I had an old and I wasn't sure if we were going in a circle if I do too. But the other one that I chose was I'm an Avenged Sevenfold fan. I know that not everybody is.
Oh man.
You like Avenged
Sevenfold?
Yeah, the guy's name is Sinister Gates.
Sinister Gates. Yeah.
And by the way, he's got a couple that are just awesome. And I had to choose
probably in my humble opinion.
Yeah, let's hear it.
He is the best modern day.
I would agree with you.
Hands down.
He even kind of has the style where you can tell that he emulates some of these older bands.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And I would have chose for him. There's 2, which there's, of course, the one that he's most known for is Bat Country, which that one has a little bit of like a Yngwie Malmsteen kind of feel, if you remember that character.
Okay. Yep.
But there's also Afterlife, which is really good. And that one was sort of popularized. There was a video game a couple of years back called Rock Band. And what you could do, it was like a Guitar Hero game, and you could play along and you could try to play that solo.
I like Avenged Sevenfold, and I agree with your choice, sir. My choice, my next one, is the amazing solo in Get the Funk Out by Extreme Nuno Betancourt.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, nice.
The guy, his composition is amazing. It includes a a little kid think about the Simpsons, he actually puts that musically into the solo right in the middle of this incredible arpeggio riff that will melt your face. So that is an amazing one. And I'm going to throw my second Randy Rhoads one out there because this one has to be on any list. It may be the most iconic solo. Every kid tries to learn it. Few people will get it right. Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. And
Right.
Randy.
Right.
If you don't have that solo on your list, sir, we're going to have to step around back and talk about things.
I will agree with you. And that is one that when you go, because I took lessons for a number of years, and I can't tell you the number of times I heard that coming out of the room next to us. That's one where kids would come in. And there's another one that's similar to it that's not by Randy, which is, you know, the hammer-on technique was very popular right about then, and probably still is pretty popular, which is Brad Gillis. He was in a band called Night Ranger.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it
man.
was, I think the song is it Don't Tell Me You Love Me? I think it is.
Yes, that is exactly the one I'm thinking of. Yep.
Yeah, and it's very, if you listen to it, it's very similar to what Randy was doing. And you almost got to picture him in the studio and somebody saying, hey, man, play like Randy. And that's what came out. That's not taking anything away from Brad. I didn't mean it like that.
Brad Gillis actually finished the tour that Randy died on.
Yes. Speak of the Devil tour, right?
He certainly did. He had an impossible job to do. And he gets all the credit in the world for me. He stayed true to Randy, and he never once tried to fill the shoes. He just was holding the position until something new could happen. I could not imagine the weight of having to follow Randy Rhoads after his death on that tour. Could you imagine?
Right.
So Brad Gillis, 2 huge thumbs up from the doctor.
Yeah. I'm a fan of both of them. And there's one thing that I like to say about Randy. And, I know we love music trivia, Doc. And there's something that sticks in my mind about the magic that was created by Ozzy and Randy. And here's what it is. And by the way, this kept going after Randy, but I don't think they ever hit the same level that he hit with Randy. And it's this. Ozzy doesn't write music or read music or write songs. What he does, are you ready for this? He sits down next to the guitar player and he hums. He's done that. He did that and he became Ozzy Osbourne. He became one of the greatest rock musicians on the planet by humming without any musical knowledge whatsoever.
Well, we shared this last time we talked. The very best band I was in, Hayes Gray. Amazing band, aspirations of being Queensryche. We wanted that real high level intensity.
Oh man,
my guitar player would stand up playing a riff, or I would play the riff, and he would mumble hum into the microphone, and I would sit and I would hear lyrics in that, and I would write the lyrics from the humming, just mumble, hum, and I'm like, oh, I got to stop.
Sure.
So yeah, that's how we composed. And it was a great way. Now, let me respond to this. Jimi Hendrix paid Terry Kath the ultimate compliment. He said that Terry Kath was a better guitarist than him. Jimi Hendrix also said, if you want to hear the best guitar player in the world, you got to go listen to Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Yeah, they were friends.
Yeah, and he loved the dude's work. So that was mine, Randy Rhoads. Crazy Train. What's your next one?
Let me see where I left off here. Oh, hey, well, since we're talking about Ozzy a little bit, I'm going to pick one that was roughly about the same time, but this guy never quite got the same press, and he never quite got the guitar god mythos attached to him, depending who you're talking to. This one's Tony Iommi, the lead for Lady Evil on the album Heaven and Hell.
Little guy we may have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heaven and Hell. Come on, man.
And by the way, you could definitely make the call that he was one of the greater songwriters of that generation. But he was a little bit before the guitar gods, if you remember. That's something that happened a little later.
Yeah.
But some of his leads, you go back and listen to him. Wow, this guy. Another also ran a good second place for him would have been Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, which had a terrific lead on it and very, for these early guitarists, there wasn't necessarily somebody that they could copy. Like they would come out with very new material and making it sound, in their eyes, kind of weird.
Yes.
But when you had somebody like Randy, and I'm not saying he was copying, but he had an immense classical
He had
knowledge.
something to compare to also.
Right.
Because there's already a body of work out there by which you can judge, and all of us built on that. Every person that's ever played music that's living right now we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah,
and I want to come back to that concept when we talk about one of the things Timothy and I were talking about is the similarity of the creative process between songwriting, performing, and comic book creation.
Right.
If
you took a poll, and I don't know if Greg's out there in comment land. Oh man, I got to show you some of mine.
Oh, that's the only existing photo of me from my music days, and of course my head is down and my hair has been chopped off because I had to go to court. So
oh no,
I didn't want the judge to go long-haired hippie, go to jail.
Hold
but that's
up,
my
hold up.
Wait. That's
Is that a pick in your hand?
I'm going to finish what I'm saying.
Tell him, Pops. Tell him.
Is that a pick in your hand, boy?
That is an Ibanez Roadstar 2, 1984.
I didn't ask about the guitar. I said, is that
24 fret broadband jazz pickup onboard active electronics. Most badass bass I ever owned. Her name was Christine. And yeah, there's a pick in my hand because all I'm doing in this scene is we're composing. So I'm just alternate picking a line while I'm listening to my guitar player mumble. And we're writing a song.
Nice.
Writing a song. I played with my fingers. I can do the Steve Harris gallop. I can't get this pinky involved for some reason. So this one, if I had to lose a finger, this one could go.
Well, the pinky has always had a mind of its own,
Well,
that's the thing you got to train.
You use it on your left hand for scale. But I figured if I can't do it with a 3-fingered gallop, then I can't do it at all. So my last one on my list to round it out, also going back to Ozzy, is the underrated but esteemed Jakey Lee outro solo from Bark at the Moon.
Yeah, great pick, man.
The composition of that solo, if you sat down and listened to the isolated track, you could play it if you're a good guitar player. Anyone could. But when you lay it onto the rhythm that he's got under it, it may be one of the most perfectly matched solos to the rhythm that it's covering I've ever heard in my life. And it is astounding and face melting, which is what I look for in a solo. All right. What's your last one, Timothy?
Definitely. First, I want to talk about Jakey Lee a little because you definitely are correct. He was very underrated. Like, I'm often surprised that he didn't have more than he did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, and when I say more, it isn't like nobody knows who the guy is. Like, they know who he is, but he never quite, like, he's not mentioned in the same way as Randy Rhoads, so to speak.
Right. And again, he had that heavy burden of following Randy and absolutely carved a niche for himself. Now, the chat is listing lots of good solos, but we're talking metal solos. We're not talking rock, blues, southern rock, any of that stuff. We're just talking metal. And I'm going to make a distinction here that I will fight anybody over. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Metal is an all-encompassing word now with all these different genres. However, what we used to call thrash has now become the word for metal, and it's not.
Right, exactly.
It's not. Thrash, first of all, was just a technique of mute chunking your power chords, and it was just a technique that we used in songwriting. But
with some elements of punk in there, I would add.
Yeah. But then thrash, the genre as we know it today, which most people call metal, which includes everything from Cookie Monster metal to whatever, simply was born from chunking your bar chords in riffs. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And then bands like Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, they came along and they kind of took that to an extreme, and now we have modern metal. But there was also let me back up. Before there were all these subgenres, there was just metal, and metal was a subgenre of hard rock, and it just meant that the players a little more advanced, the vocalists, big soaring vocals, double kick drums,
double kick
bass players who could shred just as badass as the guitar players could. It was definitely talent overload. Take your talent, turn it up to 11, and that was metal.
Right. Thanks for mentioning 11. And I will say also, there was, if you think about it, a lot of these guys, and Randy in particular, they took elements of classical music
Oh yeah.
And they put it into their songs. And
Yes.
really, if you notice, many of our choices on this list focused on that. And my last one I just wanted to touch on, but because there's a number of that he could have done. One of the original guitar gods was this Swedish fella, Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah.
And they used to call him even a neoclassical guitarist.
Yes.
And he had two that were good. There was Black Star was pretty good. And also probably most
Black
people
Sun.
think of, Far Beyond the Sun it was, right?
Yeah, Far Beyond the Sun. Sorry, I was getting mixed up.
Yeah, and I think that if you listen to it and you go, man, that's not even possible to play like that. Because there was so much technique and so much, it was what they used to call a virtuoso, right? And that word kind of got tossed out when thrash came because it was about speed more so than the technique. And I was a huge fan of the classical elements, and that was definitely what we were trying to do in those days.
Yes, same here. My band was doing the same thing. You look at the compositions, again, by Queensryche, the whole song is intricately composed. Maiden, same thing.
Right.
And the other element of metal were just insanely good lyrics.
Right. It was kind of like for smart people in a way. Like, for me, and I was younger then, the first time you heard like Rime of the Ancient Mariner or The Trooper from Iron Maiden, these lyrics kind of made you go look at the book so you could understand what was going on.
Flight of Icarus, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, The Trooper, about the first Crimean War. Folks, if you want an education, go get some damn Iron Maiden.
Oh God, yeah.
You will get an education. You will learn some stuff. But
did they just put out a box set or a new album? I know a new album came out.
Yeah, they did. And, I will say this too. The guys in that band are all really interesting characters. And, you talk about, they got their singer, Bruce Dickinson, who he ended up becoming a pilot, and he flies them in their jet to
their
the
747. He flies it.
Which I think that's just beyond cool. And the other thing he does is, he's like a fencing master and
a pro soccer player, pro fencing. We're talking Olympic level athlete here. Jeez. And he wrote a book called "What Does This Button Do?" And that phrase perfectly encapsulates, according to him, his idea of never stop asking questions, learning, growing, trying new things. So he's literally being flown around in Iron Maiden. He goes up in the cockpit. What's that button do?
Right.
And his love of flying came from that. And now he flies the band around. Now, having said that, based on the bands I've been in, none of my singers would be flying a damn plane. I would not trust them. Just saying.
Yeah, Nico, by the way, a tremendous drummer. We didn't talk about the drummers too much, but that'd be a great list in itself.
Man, that's a whole other topic in itself.
Listen, we're going to pick the all-time best drummer and talk about the reasons that it's Tommy Aldridge. Oh my God. Okay. All right.
We're just going to forget about the professor.
Talking about Neil? Yeah, Doc's not a Rush fan. We're going to have to string him up.
Oh man,
I'm not a Rush fan, but I am a fan of Geddy Lee's bass playing and the drummer. What the hell, Neil Peart's drumming, amazing drummer. Rush could have been the greatest band of all time, but somebody somewhere told Geddy Lee he could sing, and they should have been shot in the head for saying that, because it ruins the songs for me. The second he opens his mouth, it's fingernails on a chalkboard.
I gotta agree with you. It is not for everybody, right? But there's something that they did which I admire very much, and it applies to many creative efforts, and probably mine as well, which is, don't wait till everything's perfect. Start making your dream project. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there was many people that said to Geddy, "What are you doing?"
Oh yeah, had to have been.
Yeah, and he said, you know what? We decided, hey, everybody. It's like there's a meme about it. Talk about 70s rock, and it's like, hey, baby, let's party tonight. And they're like, let's have an 11-minute bass solo. I'm going to sing at the top of my register, and we're going to do this song about a wizard insulting your fingers.
Yes.
What are you guys doing over there? It doesn't even make any sense. And yet they became Rush.
If you look closely at Geddy Lee, you will see a pair of lips around his nostril where he sings through there. Little tongue in there. It's like, I keep imagining what would have happened if you put just a badass 4-octave voice rocker on vocals.
You know, my guess is, I love to say this, my guess is they would have became like Dream Theater. I don't know if, or even Queensryche.
Dream Theater, definitely. Maybe not Queensryche. Queensryche was much more about melody than Rush.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Very powerful melodies. Yes. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I like what Kiss said about it. It's like they just let us in out of begrudgingly let us in because our fans were never going to leave them alone.
Right.
Screw the Hall of Fame. Who cares, man? You know what
Dude,
the Hall of Fame
Alex's whole induction speech was the word blah.
I know.
And he kept changing the inflection. And if you knew the story between the Rolling Stone and Rush, you understood everything he was saying, even though the only word he said was blah. Okay, if you knew the story, he like answered the phone. He said, "Oh, really? We got to get inducted? Oh, big deal." Blah blah blah. Right? It was like you could tell the whole story. They were shunned, just like this for years and years and years.
Yes,
they're old guys when they got inducted. People who don't even do rock and roll were inducted before they were. It was ridiculous. They're three of the best musicians in the world, man.
Right.
You know?
I agree.
Agreed. Now, Alex Lifeson would never make my list of top guitar players, but he is a great fit for Rush.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A Rush song wouldn't be a Rush song without Alex Lifeson on guitar.
Well, and he's a great example of, I'm going to tie back to one of the comments I saw earlier, and this is going to make sense in a second. At first it won't. But when they talk about Jimi Hendrix, there's many people that would say things like, well, he was one of the greatest guitar players on the planet. And, you know, he admittedly changed what rock guitar became. Mm-hmm. But you can make a pretty solid point that he wasn't a very accomplished technical player. Oh, hold on before everybody attacks me. Here's what I mean by that.
No, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I said the same thing.
Remember, you're talking about a guy who had never had a lesson, and he took his guitar, he was left-handed, and he played it upside down and backwards. And what I mean by that, for folks that don't know in the comments, like even the strings were like you couldn't even make a chord the correct way. But he never said, wow, maybe I should turn it around right side up and right-handed and do it the correct way. He said, F that, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to become Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
And like even the way that he made the chords, if you look at it, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly right.
Where I'm gently going with this is that self-taught musicians, what they're doing is a little bit off the grid. Like there isn't really a way to track it and say if it's correct or not. And that's also what Alex did. Like he's proud to say in interviews, he never had a guitar lesson in his life. He said, well, something like, well, I thought it was going to be like Mary Had a Little Lamb and things like this. And then he plays these, these chords, which are, inverted, like they're all strange, right? And each chord has like 32 notes in it.
Yeah.
Another band like that, talking about guitarists, guys that kind of got together, didn't really know how to play, and pieced it together as they went along. But U2 was like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, let's remember this. Take that to its extreme. The Go-Go's. Yeah. Nobody in that band even played an instrument. They were just cute little girls that could sing a little bit. And a producer said, I got a great idea.
Yeah.
Go take some lessons, learn the basics, and boom, the Go-Go's. All right. So, yes, you're exactly right. And I love the self-taught artists out there because I'm self-taught.
Yeah.
Both musically and otherwise. And now I teach art. But what I want to tie this into. But you go ahead, Tanner. I stepped right on you when you were commenting.
No, I got to say my piece. So.
Okay.
No, that segued perfectly.
The process of creating visual art, and in particular sequential art, is almost the same process as writing a song and performing. And Timothy and I were talking about this. Now, one of the things that I tell my students at the art school I teach at is anybody can learn to paint. Anybody. I can teach anybody alive how to be a painter if you're willing to learn. Okay. And it's the same thing. I've had people say, I can't play guitar. And I've only run across one person I couldn't teach. And that was my nephew, because every time he hit a chord, his leg would spasm and he would kick because he's just he's a spastic little idiot. Love you, Randy. But no, you can teach anybody to play guitar. You can teach anybody to paint, because art is art. And if you can tap into that side of the brain that learns art, you can learn any art. That's my theory. Prove me wrong. But to prove me wrong, you got to let me.
I don't think I want to.
You got to try to let me teach you. You know, if you're a guitar player and you say I can't draw, you come see me. I'll have you drawing or painting with 1 2-hour lesson. Period. Same thing reversed. If you're a painter or an artist and you say I can't play guitar, give me 2 hours. You'll be playing your first song and you'll go, holy shit, I did not know, because we access that part of the brain.
Yeah.
So you got your pencilers, that's your lead guitar player. You got your writer, that's your vocalist. You've got your colorist, that's your drummer, and you got your inker, that's your bassist. And of course, you know, we bassists never get love unless you're Billy Sheehan. You know,
yeah, there you go.
Because Billy Sheehan said, "Yeah, try this, sucker."
One of the great things about Billy Sheehan, and I remember the first time I heard him, it was with his old band Talus. Do you remember Talus? Or maybe it's Talos. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct.
Talos, whatever.
Yeah, and it was Sink Your Teeth Into That.
Yes.
And right, the first time I heard that, at the time they were calling him the Eddie Van Halen of the bass.
Yes.
And that's how I stumbled across it.
Yes.
But one of the great things about Billy Sheehan, let me say this the right way.
Very nice.
Yeah, I love his playing style, but you know, sometimes you meet the musicians, and you know, they always say be careful when you meet your heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know Billy Sheehan is what they call a level 4 Scientologist?
No, didn't know that at all.
Did not know that.
And by the way, I'm not making fun of anybody's religious beliefs, so don't hear that Tim is making fun of anybody. To many people, I probably seem like a kook, and some of my things are a little kooky, I admit. But I saw him in an interview, and they were asking him, like, you know, if you and I were asking, we'd be asking things like, well, hey, how do you get the hammer-ons and how do you get the tone? And this person went right to the gut of it. They said, hey, well, let me ask you, you're a level 4 Scientologist. Do you really believe that the Thetan volcano god is storing human souls in containers? And he said, well, yes, but you wouldn't understand that. You're not even a level 3.
Yes.
So wait a minute. What?
I will make fun of that particular pseudo-religious belief. Scientology ran afoul of me because, as a professional counselor treating addiction, specializing in addiction and personality disorders, when they say you can sit and hold these little metal bars that are wired to a useless box and call that counseling and we're going to cure you, and I watched how many people died from that idiocy, then I've got a problem with that.
Yeah, I was kind of gently suggesting it might be a little kooky, but like I say,
I mean, come on, we live in a world where there is literally 3 rows of different religions you can put on your dog tags. So
yes,
and I've done it. I've done it to test the theory. So.
Yes. But there's this about Billy Sheehan that I do, other than his playing, that I admire. Somebody asked him about why he developed his style the way he did, not just his sound, which is his own story. It was because I was always in trios because that's more money when you play the clubs. Right. The bigger the band, the more you got to cut. So he said I was playing bass parts and rhythm parts and sometimes lead parts on my guitar to get us through any given song. So I had to learn how to do that. And he promptly begins 2-fingering the rhythm to Don't Stop Believing by Journey and then playing the lead along with it. I'm like, there you go. That's why. So let's talk about
there. One quick thing. I see a comment there. Dawn, you have a message there. Scott Ian won't sign Jesus statues. I don't think I know that one. What is that referring to? Is he a Scientologist or something else?
Won't sign Jesus statues.
And again, I'd like to point out, I'm not insulting anybody's religion. I definitely don't mean that. What I was getting at is when you have these sort of great musicians, you know, some of these people are unusual is putting it mildly.
Yes.
Amit likes to stir the pot, doesn't he?
First of all, I love Amit. What's going on? I'm going to quote the great Ozzy Osbourne. What's a biba?
That's a biba.
That's all you got to say. And he's just trolling. Everybody.
You know, one time I was at a Black Sabbath concert, and Doc, I'm going to go back a couple of years. And do you remember that roughly about the time, this would have been right after the Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath era, and it would have been before Blizzard of Oz and the New Heaven and Hell. And there was sort of like a rumor that was sweeping around that Black Sabbath were like Satanists and that Ozzy knew what was going to happen when the end of the world came.
Yes, I remember.
And some people say that was the basis for the song. I don't know, because he got asked so many times. And well, what happened was we go to this concert, and I still remember to this day because it was so weird. We got to the front, and of course, there's hundreds of people all trying to get in. And right as we got in, the people had gathered into a circle, and they were wearing purple robes, and they were holding lit candles, and they were in a circle chanting. And I remember turning to my buddy and going, "Is that a satanic ritual?" And he goes, "It's a ritual of some kind," because we weren't really too knowledgeable about what Satanism was. And maybe that's not even what it was, but definitely something weird that you wouldn't have seen out on the street, put it that way. And, it was my first exposure toward what I would call an unusual religious practice. But these weren't, it wasn't like for a show, because I remind you, there was no YouTube in those days. It wasn't somebody trying to get on TikTok. They were getting ready to see Black Sabbath and chanting with robes on. It looked a little bit like the cover of the Blue Oyster Cult album. Yeah, because it was like, they looked weird, and it looked like something out of a movie.
Timothy, I'm in the Navy. It's 1985. I'm in San Diego, California, and I live off base. And I have to walk a long effing way every morning to get there, which means I set out at 3:45 in the morning to be there on time. I'm walking one morning, and as I'm getting closer to the base and the sun is beginning to rise, there's all these people in robes sitting on the sidewalk chanting toward the sun, "Woman, Pani Mani Moo." And I remember thinking, and this was my only critique of their religion, if I step on you, it's going to scuff my shoes. Get the F out of my way. What the hell's wrong with you people? That was it. That was my only thought about it. Because it's San Diego, and you saw so much weird in California that you just accepted the weirdness. It's going to be weird. Right around the corner, when you hang the right onto University Avenue and you're going in front of the San Diego Zoo, there used to be, I don't know if it's still there now, just this deep green space of mostly azaleas. And as I'm walking through there, and the sun's not quite up yet, I almost got scared so bad that I almost jumped into traffic because a voice just goes, "Hey!" It was a bum. He just wanted a cigarette, but he lived in the azaleas. Scared the soul out of my young body. And I just knew I was going to jump out and get hit by one of those transit buses. So, yeah, weirdness abounds. But let's talk about for a second, Timothy, the creative process. So we're going to kind of shill as we go. Now, you're a writer.
Correct.
Of comic books.
Correct, sir.
Are you an artist also? Do you draw?
I do not. A little bit, but very poorly. And I sometimes thumbnail out my own pages, but in a word, no.
That's cool, actually.
Talk about for our audience, and you and I were kind of kicking this around. There is a strong correlation between writing music, performing music, and composing a comic book and publishing a comic book.
Very much so.
Walk that for us a little bit.
First of all, I'm super glad you asked that question. And I'm always interested to hear how other people do it. And like I say, I'll rewind how this started. I came by it honestly. I was always a fan of comic books, and I'm a comic book collector. And I'm also been a writer for many years. And I'm always very proud to say I never got any traction as a short story writer, which is what I was doing. And what happened to me was, like I told you, I ended up losing this comic book store, and I ended up with some kind of a psychological issue where I wanted to make something that couldn't be taken from me. Like I was like almost consumed by it, you might say. And I started very late compared to when some people did it. I decided this when I was 50 years old, that I was going to write a comic book script. And
there you go.
Yeah. So what I did is, man, I sat down and I started pumping out scripts. And I do have a reasonable knowledge of storytelling and language and composition and so forth. Well, what I noticed almost right away when you're working with the artist is that there is a certain rhythm to pages and even a longer rhythm toward the arc of a story.
Yes.
And the way that it ties into music, and first of all, I use a funny one to make the example. You and I touched on this the other day. If you're in tight with your drummer, let's say the bass player and drummer, we used to say, it doesn't matter if you fall down the stairs, as long as you land at the bottom at the same time.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
and for people that don't know, real quick, Timothy, the bass player and the drummer, that's the rhythm section of any band almost,
right.
Until you get to an orchestra.
Right.
And in a good band, the drummer and the bass player can read each other's minds.
Yeah.
Period. So go ahead.
And you could even say that if the drummer and the bass player are good, everybody else can screw up quite a bit and the song still sounds okay.
That's so true.
Right. If you've got a great guitar player and everything else, but the drummer and the bass player are messing up the song, everybody's going to look at that band and go, these guys suck.
Yes. Yes. Listen, here's a saying real quick for you. When the singer stops singing, that's just a musical interlude. When the guitar player stops playing, the song goes on. When the drummer and the bass player stop, the song stops.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man. Well
Song's
said.
over.
So how that ties into page making. By the way, in my case, your mileage may vary. Tanner, are you a writer as well? Are you artist?
I am. I actually write all the stuff for our comics.
Yeah. So maybe we're kind of similar.
He draws too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. He does visuals.
So in my case, when I make the pages, the first thing is I have a relatively detailed page description, and I write my own camera angles, and they're boarded out, as they say, because I got my start through writing screenplays, and I used to do what they call pitches for animation. Which
wow.
Yeah. Now, by the way, don't hear that Tim's so successful. This is another one of my things that never took off. But what you would do, and actually you guys might find this interesting. I used to submit pitches for a studio called Nickelodeon, and then they had an offshoot called Spike TV. And I'm not even sure those two networks are even around anymore. But
Nickelodeon still is.
Is it? Okay. And I have a cousin who's a director. That's how I got my foot in the door. He was a director of an animated series. It was the show. It was the animated version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. And I would write what they call interstitials, which is the little breaks, like right before they would go to commercial. There'd be like a 30-second little animated plug. And, it would have like a little joke, you know what I mean, in there. And, well, hey, I want to develop my own series. And in those days, what you do, you develop the script, but you give it to this other fella who was a pitcher, and he would go into the meeting with the suits, and he would have a boombox, and he would play music, and he would say, here's the idea. And he would give sort of like an animated synopsis for the show, and hopefully they would pick it up. And mine is, it was a robot rock band called Socket, right? And it's something, we wrote all the music for it, and, and it was kind of like, it was a comedy. It was sort of like the Transformers or the Turtles, like humorous, goofy robots. And they had adventures and so forth, and always solved a crime by the end. And then it went into the pitch meeting, and it was against, I can still remember this. It was 5 pitches and 4 got picked up. Mine did not get picked up. It was, one was a series called Stripperella. It was Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, it was done by yeah.
You remember?
Man, Stan Lee's. Yeah.
Right, yeah. There was another one called Gary the Rat, and it had Kelsey Grammer.
Yep.
And then there was, it was the remake, which is a show that was already out. It was called The New Adventures of Ren and Stimpy.
Yep.
And there was a 4th one. I forget what the 4th one was, but I was number 5. I did not make the cut.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting, right? So, but I kept that original script, of course, for Socket, and that ended up being Socket #1, my first book that I made. So
nice.
it eventually did see print. But how it's like music is that when you're making a page, in this case, what I do is a relatively amount of details, right? It is boarded out, so it's helpful for the artist. But it's not too different than when you have your breaks for the drummer, when you're writing verses. And what I mean by that, when you have the page, when you get to the end, that's where the cymbal crashes. And I always hear it in my head. Dun, 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 dun. It's a very musical way to approach it. And then, hey, that's when you hear the cymbal crash, you turn the page. And then sometimes you might even have double fills. You might have a 9-panel page, or I even sometimes do a 12. And then I'll do a 12-panel and then a splash.
And on behalf of pencilers everywhere, I hate you for that.
Yeah, pencilers do tend to hate the 12 panel. And we used to do a lot of double splash pages too, which I love. But as you know, they don't necessarily translate well to
Yeah, those were the guitar solos of the band, of the books.
Right.
Yeah, I
guitar
do.
solo.
Growing up, a 90s kid, Image Comics.
I love the double page spreads, but in my case, they don't translate well to digital readers. And what you get is either a split up image or they shrink it down so it's viewable at once. And when it's shrunk down, it's not as impressive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, in my mind, I'm a little OCD, I guess. It doesn't line up visually correctly the same way as turning a page. Because in the digital, of course, most people are reading like this. There's not anything wrong with that, but we live in the Webtoons generation where the way that they read is in fact different. Now, I hate to be a dinosaur. And
what do you talk about that? There's like I read something about an exodus with Webtoons. A lot of people are pulling their stuff. And unfortunately, I didn't read into the article very much. I kind of wish I had.
Well, and like I telling Doc, and you might have got this from talking to me, I'm a little bit of a kook, right? Like, as I mentioned, I didn't necessarily get started because of my strong psychological stability. I started...
How dare you!
I started because I was, of course, being driven by this life event that happened to me and damaged me. So I'm not in this for the money. I'm doing it because there's this voice that tells me you need to make this and you're running out of time. So every time I make a new book, it's something that I wanted to make. And I don't necessarily gear my stuff toward any audience at all. As a matter of fact, I'm quick to point out, hey, do you love modern comics? And you're probably not going to like this very much. And I'll save that for another episode. But, they used to say a thing in the 90s. They would say, are comics good? Comics can be good. Nobody says that about modern comics, let's be honest. And, everybody's got their reason why they do things, and I respect everybody's reason. But I guess I'll come right out in front of the crowd and say the reason why I'm doing it is different. So if you want to see something that I love, man, welcome. Everybody, I'd love you to check out my stuff. But I definitely did not pitch it toward the audience that likes Webtoons, that likes any of that stuff. And by the way, that's not judging anybody. It's a big tent. We all got room under there. But mine is framed in the sense of somebody that would like the classic comics, great works of literature, the stories of Richard Matheson and Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov.
Man.
It's all classic stuff. Like if you like the Twilight Zone, you will like Water Wars 2288. And that's probably the closest thematic cousin that it has. And of course, I realize that I'm talking about a show that's been off the air for 60 years. So, that's just the way that I did.
It maintains its popularity.
But it does.
That's the key.
Right. And it's also one of those things that if you ask somebody, even the current generation, hey, do you like something like that? They go, yeah, it's really cool. So there is still hope for a guy like me. But
and there's still hope for a generation out there that didn't grow up with the stuff we grew up with. And it just proves that there's a timelessness to certain concepts, certain genres, certain methods of storytelling that are universally appealing.
Well, and similar to Doc in this case, in my example, I do it for the love of the craft, and it's something that is inside me. I didn't aim it toward any audience at all. And even in my first 3 books, or actually it was 4, I didn't use Kickstarter at all. I just made the book. And in those days, what you did is you'd make the book and you would take it to Comic Cons, you see. And this is before COVID and everything. And basically you'd have a table and you would try to get people to notice your book. And I get it that it's not like that anymore. It's come on, join us, Michael. But as far as
doing that in September.
What are you doing?
I'll actually be doing that in September.
The con.
Oh yeah. And I do Baltimore Comic Con still every year. I do a big one.
Very nice.
And I don't, it'd be smart for me to, if I could do 12 conventions a year, I would.
I wouldn't. See, I'm the opposite. I've done cons. I don't enjoy the experience.
What do you mean by that? Tell me what you mean.
2 reasons for that. One is they won't let you smoke.
Oh.
Kiss my entire ass. If I was John Byrne, you'd let me smoke.
Right.
Eddie Van Halen could smoke on stage in no smoking arenas. I'm just saying. But the other reason is I just didn't enjoy it because it's very people-y out there.
Gotcha.
Timothy.
Yeah.
There's lots of people at those things. Now, my deal with my publisher is if there's cons to be done, you're going, not me.
Sure.
He didn't agree to that, but that's my term. So I would go. I would do cons. I just
well, and you could make a pretty good point that one of the better ways to engage with the reader is in the face-to-face, and I actually do pretty well with that. I won't mislead you, but the element that's challenging for a guy like me is because now I'm the publisher too. Again, some of these things have happened to me accidentally, right? Like I just want to be the writer, man. Once you start using Kickstarter, you become the publisher, the fulfillment, YouTube channel. It's all a thing. But and by the way, I'm grateful for that stuff. Please don't hear that Tim's not grateful. I'm very grateful. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, readers. Thank you, everyone, for supporting my projects.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I'm a writer. Okay. I never actually really wanted to do this other stuff. It is just the means to an end by which I can make my next book. Yeah. So when I go to cons, I have a terrific response from the customers, and we just had our record sale. We outsold, we sold out of some of the books, and it was our best time ever. But if you talk about me going to Michigan, let's say, okay, well, first thing is you got the table, and I typically do what they call a double table. I feel you get a response by looking a little bigger. So you're in for what, $500-600. Then you're going to need a room for a couple days. There's another $500-600. You're in for $1,000. Well, now you got to fill up your tank at least twice to get there. There's another $200. You're in for $1,200 before you start eating. 3 days worth, you got at least a couple $100. There's $1,400, $1,500. Well, look, if you don't buy anything at all, you're almost up to $2,000 before you even get there.
Right.
So, and I'm not telling everybody what to do, but for me, if I was selling $2,000 worth of books at every con, I'd be ringing the bell. I think at my last one, I was lucky to, and I did clear enough to not lose money. And of course, I realized that it's not always about being profitable. It's about marketing. Right. But I can't drop $2,000 every weekend. I don't have Doc Blalock money. I just have Tim Fling money.
The whole idea of publicly doing a book, because if we just wanted to do books, we'd do one at home, and I enjoyed that. That was great. Right. But it's to get it in people's hands because you're trying to share a little vision of your own with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the goal, to get in front of people. But you gotta have money to do it, and that's where crowdfunding comes in. And it's a great thing. There was no such thing when I started out doing this. Thank God, I worked for publishers that would give me a little money to draw them. And I was like, the page rate was something to laugh at back in the day. I mean, I wouldn't even pick up a pencil for that now. But my thing, like Timothy, was having worked for several little publishers back when I was doing comics in the 90s, I remember thinking, I can write better than these guys. And I can. I mean, I'm a writer. Every bit as much as I am an artist. So this time I said, I'm going to write it. I'm going to draw it. I'm going to tell the story I want to tell. But the saying is very true. For what you don't know how to do, surround yourself with people who do. Surround yourself with people smarter than you. I don't know anything about crowdfunding. I don't know anything about fulfillment. So I've got a publisher. Even though I'm a painter, I'm not a colorist. So I have a colorist for the covers, and then I have Carol doing great work for me on the black light tapestries. Matt C's doing my covers in color, but the book is black and white. So that's on me. Now, I'm not even an inker, Timothy, but I had to ink this book because it ain't going. At first I was like, why can't I just pencil it? Because reproduction quality is such today that you could do just a pencil only book and put it out there. And I may yet do that. But I went on and I slogged my way through inking and discovered that, I can do it. But then I found my old inker, Jeff Priester. Jeff, if you're watching, God love you. So Jeff will be inking me from here on out because that's what he is. He's an inker. He's the bass player. He lays down the beat. He holds it all together. I can send him my pages and I'll get back art, So I never wanted to be an inker. I never wanted to be a publisher. I never wanted to be the fulfillment guy. I just want to draw and write. I want to tell stories. So yeah. Just like I never wanted to be the lead guitar player. I like bass. I didn't try guitar, fail, and move to bass. I started on bass. And I stayed on bass.
Watch out for that trap.
I'm actually really excited to do the fulfillment part. I actually get my RIN books sometime around Monday, Tuesday. They should come in from FedEx. So,
and I get a comp copy, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So Tanner, is this? Let's hear a little bit about Tanner. So, are you done crowdfunding? You done Kickstarter?
No. We don't ever shill Tanner. No, I'm kidding. Shill away, Tanner.
Already backed this damn book. What do you got to shill him for?
Yeah.
But I will say this: we're just about at closing time. But what I want to do is the CRoM Con opening panel starts at noon Eastern, and I want both of you gentlemen to be there. We have Mike Baron on as our guest.
Oh wow!
Let me repeat that: Mike freaking Baron.
Yeah.
May have heard of the guy.
Oh well, yeah. My first Punisher comic is a Mike Baron comic, and it changed my life.
I was a Punisher collector too.
You guys don't understand. Every time I turn around, doing the show-off show with Dave, every time we do something where we're showing stuff off, I find another Mike Baron book that I had no idea I either owned or that he did. Okay, dude is all over the room here.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If you don't own a Nexus, shame on you.
I didn't know that till we actually met him and started talking to him.
Yeah.
If you don't have Badger, shame on you.
Oh, yes, I do. I have Nexus and Badger and just all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And I am forever trying to live down my first meeting online with Mike Baron, where I fanboyed out. Pops left laughing because Mike Baron comes out, and I'm like, who were your influences? The dumbest interview question you can ever ask someone. Who are your? I was so embarrassed. I wanted to die as I asked Mike Baron that question. So, of course, he graciously answered, and then he looked at me like a chicken looks at a card.
So I have a case in point right here. This one we found last week.
Oh yeah,
the Crush.
The Crush.
Oh, nice.
There he is.
Terribly underrated.
Mike freaking Baron.
Which Harris?
I don't know. I didn't look. I didn't care. It said Mike Baron on it.
Who cares? All right. So, Timothy, can you join us on the opening panel?
Yeah, I got to duck out and come back. I got to make breakfast for my son.
Yeah, 30-minute break, and then we're going to come back.
A quick disclosure, just level with you guys. I'm what they call a Mr. Mom for the next 2 weeks. My wife's away, so I got a 15-year-old here, so I got certain responsibilities.
You go handle the kid. Come on back.
I'll come back.
We'll make sure you get the link.
Yes,
chat. I want to thank the chat for showing up.
I just gotta say this real quick, Doc. Vic, we love you. You ain't quite at the Mike Baron level yet. Okay? Okay? What you do is you get your own spot in CRoM Con and you push your own stuff like these other people have and build your reputation.
You know what though, Pops? You know what though? We'll let Vic come on and ask a couple of questions of Mike Baron. We'll say we got an aspiring young artist here. Maybe he's got some questions for Mike.
We'll see.
We'll let you do that.
We'll see. I'll think about it.
And I got to make a quick comment. Man, Doc, it is always a pleasure being on your show. I want to tell you, I'm not just saying that. I really enjoy our conversations, and I look forward to them. And Tanner, nice to meet you. I'll definitely be in
wonderful
touch.
Meeting you.
Yeah, this is a terrific time. Thanks for having me, guys.
Listen, you old boomer. It was great having you out here. Timothy Fling, go find him. Go back him. Earth Dog Studios, Water Wars. Give my man some love.
I appreciate you guys.
Michael will be right here on the same channel you're watching now. You will see CRoM Con. See ya, Timothy. All right, Pops, play us the fuck out of here. I gotta go.
We will have some segments of this will be on Doc's channel. They'll be on the Comic Talk with Pops Van Zant channel. Do us a favor. watch both, give them both some likes, give them both some loves. We're trying to grow these channels, not just one or the other, or it's like, that's why we're building a network. Okay. We're trying to build everybody's channels. So when you see us out here on my channel doing Doc's show, we're probably on his channel too. Go give that channel some love as well. And
but remember, the #1 show on the network is Doc's Coffee Shop. Free refills through the week. God bless you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming out. Tanner, you are always my wingman. Great to have you. Pops, the producer from hell. Glad to have you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Timothy Fling, amazing guest. Great conversation. Chat, you just rock my world.
I did find a meme at the end, Doc.
There it is. There it is.
Yes.
All right, Pops, whenever you're ready, play us out of here. I'll see you guys on CRoM Con.
We're going to see you guys in about a half hour. Right here,
Be there.
right there, everywhere. 8 destinations, CRoM Con. Watch for it. We'll be there. Peace.
I'm a setting sun, but I'll never run. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. I will stay and fight as long as I'm alive. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. Till I die.
I'm Tanner Hurley, and you're watching the Madness Comics Network. Get some!
Bringing you sex, sass, and style. Buckle up and unlock your imagination for a fun adventure with these death-dealing dames. They sail the galaxy in search of spoils. The most dangerous acquisition, and the most fruitful, are the legendary Splinters of Yggdrasil. The Splinters are magical artifacts forged from the Tree of Life that wreak havoc on the universe. The missions are perilous, but the bounty is glorious. Enjoy our hyper-fictional wonderland. How is a pirate ship sailing through space? 'Cause magic. How do they heal so quickly after battle? 'Cause magic. How are they able to communicate through jewelry? 'Cause magic. It's all about the characters. Abo, rough, robotic, ready. Mo, carefree, callous, courageous. Mistress Graven, daring, diplomatic, dominating. Betsy, academic, accountable, aristocratic. Nefara, Ancient, assured, adrenaline junkie. Bruto, proud, prominent, protective. Fisty, independent, incendiary, invigorating. Roxy, superficial, scarred, secretive. Once you get to know this diverse crew of mythical miscreants, you'll be anxious to find out what trouble they'll get into on the next episode. Go to abogrizzly.com and order both halves of the first episode today.
America's southern border has become a war zone. Human traffickers, drug smugglers, and terrorists flow across the Rio Grande with impunity, secure in the knowledge that no one will stop them. A distant federal government lectures Americans on their privilege while punishing overworked Border Patrol agents who were helpless to stem the tidal wave of invaders and determined migrants. Second-generation Cuban-American Marcos Zamora is a military vet, more patriotic than most Americans. No longer able to ignore the chaos at his doorstep, he acts. Joined by his best friend Gus, they hit the border every night, saving lives while stopping violent drug cartels and other opportunists. The government reacts with fury at Marcos' attempts to preserve American sovereignty, deploying the full might of their enforcement agencies. But Marcos understands that the only thing the rich and powerful fear is bad publicity, and he records every encounter. Whoever he is, this private American must be stopped. Illustrated by Richard Bonk and written by Eisner winner Mike Barron, Private American is his version of Captain America, and maybe a little Punisher, taking part in this ongoing, violent, and very real battle of good versus evil in the war for American sovereignty. Grab your copy at theprivateamerican.com.
We have a secure border, and that is a priority for our administration.
How do you end this thing? How do you put the where's the brakes on this bus? I forgot.
Jazz hands and brakes.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.